Hey everyone, welcome to another video. We're going to be comparing two briskets side by side. One of them cooked on the Masterbuilt 440 and the other one on 560. Today I was able to get two briskets, one of them 22 pounds and the other one around 15 pounds, okay? The smaller one will go on the 440. Okay, what we're going to be using is black pepper and kosher salt, very basic Texas style. Don't mind the baby, I was kind of babysitting my 9-month-old, so I got him on a little kangaroo pouch. Say hi, Emiliano. Say hi. He's gonna be my little helper for today. Okay, so we're gonna use about half a cup of each, half a cup of kosher salt, and half a cup of restaurant style black pepper. That's what it looks like there. Don't forget to give it a really good shake. Get everything mixed up. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these briskets out of their bags. I want to be separating these, no binders. All I'm going to be doing is using their own juices. Well, actually, I'm going to rinse them off. And then I'm going to be using just that water that it was rinsed off in to go ahead and use that as the binder. I'll just have that to have the salt and pepper mixture go ahead and stick to the brisket. I'm trying to be as least messy as possible. Alright, let's go ahead and trim this sucker up. I'm gonna trim down to about 1/4 inch between the meat. Kind of hard to decipher that, but I'm gonna just carefully remove piece by piece, trying not to damage that meat that's right underneath all this gristle and chunks of ridiculous fat. Carefully just move around everywhere until you are fully satisfied what size of a brisket and fat content you want. This one was a little bit damaged on the flat side there by the knife, but I mean, oh well, gotta work with what you got. This was on special. I got it for around $42–43, so I kind of lucked out on that. So we're gonna just continue to take out as much fat as needed for this cook here. Alright, that looks pretty good right there. We're going to start on the other one and see how that one turns out. You can see the difference on this one. It covers pretty much the entire board almost. This one was around 15 pounds. This one wasn't too hard to trim up, just a few thick chunks of gristle, and I was pretty much on my way. Not too much needed here. Alright, now we're gonna get started on the seasoning. Our briskets are nicely trimmed to our specification. We're gonna go ahead and just use its own moisture to go ahead and coat these and have that as a binder. All I'm using is just the water it was rinsed off in, any residual water from my hands. So we're gonna go ahead and apply an even layer of this salt, kosher salt, and restaurant styled black pepper to the bottom side. I went ahead and flipped it first, so the fatty side is going to be on the top, so that way I don't have to flip it twice. So go ahead and season the bottom side of it as much as you want. It's all honestly preference. I really don't like to use too much salt, as little salt as possible, but when it comes to a brisket, you want to have a nice even layer. We're also going to go ahead and pat it down, since this does not have a traditional mustard binder. Make sure to also get the sides really well as well, okay? You want this whole chunk of meat covered properly in seasoning. Alright, so here we also have the larger 22 or 25 pounder. We're going to do exactly the same thing. Start with the fat cap up, season the fat cap quite a bit. On this one I went ahead and added or didn't remove as much of the fat cap. We're going to be using this larger brisket to put on the Masterbuilt 560 series, and I will go go ahead and place it on the lowest rack, which is the base rack, to go ahead and cook. With that being said, it will be a little bit more prone to maybe burning or crisping up. We will be using a low and slow of 250 degrees, so we want a little bit of added protection on this brisket here, on this specific brisket here. So if you could place the brisket on the medium rack setting or even the highest rack setting, but I'm gonna put it right at the base and see how that cooks there. Okay, so now we're gonna be setting up the temperature in the smokers. We're gonna be using the lower element on the Masterbuilt 440 with the heat setting of 250 degrees and a smoke setting of 3. On the gravity feed series, we're gonna start there by removing the slides that are right in between the hopper and the grill itself. I'm gonna use little spikes there to go ahead and just set it aside. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna turn this bad boy on. We're gonna set a temperature of 250 degrees, the same there. We're also gonna be layering here in a bit the wood and charcoal chunks. Right, so I'm using already processed pecan chunks. These are a little bit bigger, but I'm layering them about 4 inches in between. 4 inches of charcoal, and then I'll put 2 or 3 pieces, depending how big they are, but about two good sized pieces of this pecan, and layering it some more with some charcoal briquettes. I'm using just a cheap brand. I really didn't have time to get everything ready as much as I wanted, so I'm just some regular cheap ones. A couple of more loads of pecan, if they'll fit, and that looks pretty good right there. So we're gonna latch it up, and I'm gonna be using these tumbleweeds made from royal oak. To me, they seem to work pretty well. I only need to use one of them, so it feels kind of waxy. I think they got some kind of wax on them, I'm not too sure, but I recommend these tumbleweeds. You can get them pretty much anywhere, or your little fire starter bricks. But to me, I like using this one so far. It's the first time I've used these, and they work really well. So the way I'm gonna stuff these suckers in there, I'm gonna go as far in the middle of the hopper as I can. That way I get an even burn. Oh, we're also gonna be using one big chunk right at the base of the ash pan for extra added smokiness. I'm gonna use a butane torch to light this puppy dog up. It lights up in an instant, a couple seconds, and that is all you need. Got nicely lit up, and we're gonna let the smoker do its work. Alright, we'll be using a hickory wood chunks made from Masterbuilt to use on the 440 series. These are really awesome, neat little pieces. They're clean cut, very symmetrical, almost square per se. We'll be using about 1 to 2 pieces. I do recommend you use about 1 to 2 pieces. Any more than that, and you're liable for a flare up. So just be careful and how many pieces you add on here. 2 of them seem to work really well, about 45-50 minutes. I think a little bit more of a burn, so give it a shot, see what works out best for you. For me, about 2 pieces. All right, just going to place that smaller brisket into the Masterbuilt 440. Carefully put it in the middle rack, nice and gently. That's all you need to do, nothing special. Going to latch it up. Okay, so we are going to be adding a meat probe for each brisket. Go ahead and put on the thickest part of the point for both of them. And this clip here shows the brisket in the middle rack. I shortly put it in the bottom rack a few minutes later. So rest assured, it wasn't on the middle rack cooking. Alright, so we're going to be spritzing every 2 hours for this cook. I'm using a apple juice and apple cider vinegar on a fancy little sprayer. I'm just going to go ahead and douse the crap out of this. Honestly, a good dose of spray ain't going to hurt nothing. It's going to help, you know, tenderize the crust. We're going to do the same to the Masterbuilt 560 brisket. Good amount of spritz all over. Make sure you coat it up pretty good. I got plenty of this mixture here, so I don't mind it. Every 2 hours, okay? Around every 2 hours. That's what it looks like. About there. Looks pretty good so far. I'm not too sure if this temperature probe is accurate or not. Just to make sure it's accurate, I'm gonna go ahead and put an extra probe on here just to confirm what that probe is saying here. I'm not going to put maybe a couple of them, 2 or 3. We'll see what it says. Alright, so far that's the temperature there. A little bit of spritz in here. I don't know. Let's see here. Let's see. Put up one here. Here. Oh, this looks kind of weird. Okay, 124 on the Masterbuilt. Yeah, looks like it is accurate. You know what? I'll be right back. Okay, so about 4 hours in, let's go ahead and check the temperature on the 440 and the 560. Okay, so we're about 173 degrees internal temperature, running at about 255 with this 15 pounder. Okay, so we are running at about 124 internal temperature at about 241 degrees. I went ahead and turn down the heat. It's starting to char up the bottom a little bit, and I was just a little bit scared that the meat was going to char up too much on the bottom of that 22 pounder. So we are going to do a double take to see how accurate the Masterbuilt thermometer is. I have an instant read thermometer that is able to lock in the temperature, so we're going to compare what this one and the Masterbuilt hold off to. Okay, I'm not sure you guys could see that there. 173 on the Masterbuilt, 172 on this instant read, so looks like it's pretty spot on there, and I'm pretty content with that. Okay, so regarding the temperature, we're gonna start removing this brisket out and getting it ready to wrap. I was, like I said, content with the temperature. I would have liked getting it out around 165 internally, but 172, 173, it's not bad at all either. I typically want to pull out the meat usually at 165. Reason for that being is that at that temperature the meat stops accepting that smoke, stops permeating. Any more than that could result in a bitter tasting piece of meat. So 165 is a rule of thumb for me, for my personal guidelines. You know, every person is different, but for me that's what I like to go with. So at around 172, 173, this is what the product looks like right here. And like I said, I mean, that's what I'm used to. After wrapping, the final product is gonna have a totally different color. It's gonna have a much darker bark, like that of stick burners. So I'm not really worried about what it looks like cosmetically. I know that once you wrap it up with either foil or butcher paper, it's gonna have a much darker tone. Now I usually like using a foil paper to lock in all that moisture. I really don't like losing any of that precious juice, but I ran out of butcher paper. I ran out of foil and I ran out of butcher paper too, so I was able to barely make it when it came to wrapping the brisket. I barely made it. The smaller brisket was okay to wrap. The bigger one I kind of struggled a little bit, but I just barely had enough to cover both of these. After wrapping it about twice, go ahead and put it back in your pan, and I'm gonna finish it off in that same cooker it was in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish off the cooks in the Masterbuilt 440 series. The reason for that is it's electric, so that's one of the perks about the 440 is that you're gonna be able to conserve wood or fuel. The 560, if you want to finish your brisket in your 560, you can, but you're gonna burn through all that coal. What I do recommend is finishing off after you wrap your meat in the oven or in an electric smoker that you originally putting in. Okay, so I'm gonna add the non-stick pan underneath or on the rack here. That way it is able to catch all the drippings. I do not have foil paper, so it's the juices are gonna permeate through. I'm just gonna put it right on there. That way it catches all the juices and helps me out with keeping that au jus that I'm gonna go ahead and place the brisket in back in there. Do not forget to reattach your thermometer probe back in around the same area that you originally had it in. You still want to monitor this and make sure once you get to that final temp, you're able to do so by adding your temperature probe. This big brisket still has a long way to go. It is at 128 degrees so far, so we're quite a bit away from it. I'm guessing it's gonna take another 2 or 3 hours for it to get to 165, 170. I also went ahead and moved it over to the middle rack because it was charring up a little bit. I got a little concerned, so I just went ahead and put it on the middle rack to finish it off enough for it to wrap in. Okay, so the larger brisket took a little over an hour for it to reach its designated temperature that I wanted. Wrapped it up and put it in the same Masterbuilt 440 series to finish off that cooking. Once we get to about 203 to 205 internal temperature, we're gonna remove both of them and start the resting process. Okay, so the next morning, I placed a bigger one on the Masterbuilt 560 for 2 hours to rest. Now we're gonna go and start the unraveling and slicing video. We are also going to remove the one resting in the 440 series here, as shown here. Okay, the first one we're going to do is the smaller 15 pounder. This pan was able to get all that great juice out of it. We're going to save that for later. We're going to be adding back the sliced brisket on that. All right, here we have a deeper color. As I mentioned before, wrapping it does help with achieving a darker looking bark. This one here so far has a desirable bark that I do not mind. I mean, it could have been a little bit darker, but this color absolutely will do, and I'm pretty content with it. All right, so beginning the slicing, I'm trying to cut this as best to my abilities I can. It's got a nice crust on it. A little bit difficult to cut through. I really don't like cutting brisket because you either shred it up or destroy it, or don't get the right thickness on the slices. But I'm trying my best here to slice it as perfect as I can. It looks pretty good, doesn't look too bad so far. Ended up having to slice it just a little bit thick. So here we have a slice of the flat, and it is ever so juicy. I really was happy with the results of this flat coming out. I was really worried that it was gonna be dry and leathery, but we had some really nice glistening there. I was really happy with the way this one here pulled it out at about 2 or 3 degrees internal temperature. Both of them did. Looks like it's holding. It kind of broke, but I mean, I'm very happy, very happy with the quality. It really didn't have much of a smoke ring on it, and I'm fine with that. So this came out pretty good. My main worry for the flat was for it to be dry. For me, having a dry flat is pretty much like failing at the brisket. So as long as that flat wasn't dry, I mean, I was good. And if the flat wasn't dry, the point sure as heck ain't gonna be dry. This is the part where most of that juiciness comes from. All the fatty portion of it comes from this section here, which is the point. For me, that's my favorite part. I could even eat those big old chunks of fat, but I love the point. That is my favorite. So that's what that point looks like there so far. Again, very happy with the way it came out. Very content. Very juicy piece of meat right there. For me, that's the best part. Okay, so this one here, we did not have a smoke ring at all. Electric smokers, sometimes it's a hit and miss. You can achieve one, but for the most part, you really don't get any smoke ring, which it doesn't really affect any other meat at all. So don't you all be worried if you don't get a smoke ring on your brisket or pork butt on your electric smokers. It's not a big deal. All right, so I'm gonna go and try a piece now. Try a piece of the flat. See what it tastes like. All right, so there's a piece of the flat right there. Pulls apart. Pretty good. Tender, it's not dry. All right, so it's got a good flavor, good taste. It's not dry at all. It's really tender. There's no smoke ring. This was a Masterbuilt MES 440 model that we use. So there's no smoke ring. It's fine. The bark, I like the bark. Could have been better. I didn't wrap it as much as I would have. So it's, and other than that, it's a good tasty brisket. Show you here. I mean, it was actually a pretty good brisket. I like to try the flat first to see if there's any drying in it. Actually, it was not dry at all. The fatty, I mean, you saw the fatty part, the point. That's my favorite. But as far as this brisket came out really well. No smoke ring, which is absolutely fine. Sometimes these electric smokers won't give you a smoke ring. Sometimes they will. But pretty good results. Right now we have the Gravity 560 series resting right now. So we're just gonna go ahead and wait until that's done to try that one out. All right off the bat, you see here our 560 series smoked brisket. You can see a definitely difference in bark color. All right, so we're starting the slicing here. I'm really digging this bark, really bad. On this one here, we had a more of a stiffer bark. This was the brisket that I really didn't get to wrap as much because of how big it was. So the bark itself is not very soft as I would have liked it to be. So you can see towards the ends there, starting to kind of break off. But that's okay. I didn't really have enough paper to wrap it in, so it's not a big deal. All right, so after some attempts to slice it, it ended up slicing nicely. And guess what? Look at that smoke ring. The bark on that and the smoke ring is amazing. This was the Masterbuilt 560 Gravity Feed Series. I got what I call a perfect bark and a really nice definite smoke ring. That smoke ring is due to science stuff, which I do not know any. And all I know is that that smoke ring is really nice. Here's another view from the front side, so you can pretty much see how the carving went about. Towards the end there, before pulling the knife completely out, I held the meat together that way it wouldn't fall apart like it did in the first part of the brisket. Got a really decent looking piece of meat, and here is your points. Don't look too bad. Looks just like it's a little hair dry. This could be due to the not being able to tightly wrap it as much as I would have liked to, but the bottom side of that fat cap did its job in holding it together. Here's another section of the sliced point. That point seems to be of a nice juicy texture. Again, presentation wise, I'm quite satisfied with the quality of the point and the flat on the Masterbuilt 560 series. I'm slicing it up, getting it ready for the food warmer here. I'm gonna go ahead and place these two briskets on separate food warmer trays. I'm having a get together here at my home, so I'm gonna have two different types of briskets, and people tell me what their input is on that. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty impressed. Can't forget posting some pictures for the gram and for the Snapchat, so gotta take care of those. There was a little bit of a late post. We had a family come over unexpectedly early, but the Masterbuilt 560 brisket was way much tastier. There was a definite smoke taste, a pecan smoke taste that I was able to acquire from layering the wood. It was so far my favorite type of meat smoked on there. That bark, that smoke ring, the actual flavor of it was really good, really good. And I do have to say that the 560 series beat the 440 series by a landslide in presentation and in taste. I give it, a 10 out of 10. Of course, I also paired it up with a little bit of salsa, rice and potato salad, but for me it was a pretty tasty dish. This was a rather a good video to compare both of them. The results came in like night and day. The 560 did its job, well worth it, when it came to pretty much all aspects of this smoking. So the Masterbuilt 440 series, you had a decent bark on it. No smoke ring, but the flavor was pretty good. The flavor and having the flat not dry out, I think, had to do with the wrapping. So the more you wrap, the more of a moist dish you have. On the Masterbuilt 560 series, you had a very definite bark all the way around, like nice darker bark. You had a very, very nice smoke ring added to it as well, due to the science part of having the wood combustion and the coals and all that good stuff. There was a very definite wood flavor, wood smoke, authentic flavor that you would get from a stick burner. Having both of them side by side, gave me the opportunity to compare it in this matter, and I would recommend getting the 560 series when it comes to the aesthetics of the meat. It was pretty tasty, and I will cook again, and I'm gonna keep cooking on this 560 series. If y'all are looking for something on the market that's very reasonably priced as far as the gravity feed series, the Masterbuilt 560 gravity feed series is, I'd say, the cheapest out on the market, as most gravity feed systems are well over $2,000. They also have a Masterbuilt 1050, which is, I believe, twice the size of it. If you're looking to add as much meat, as much bang for your buck. But any questions y'all have, go ahead and feel free to message me, or follow my Instagram, which is at josh.edas or at edasbarbecue on my Instagram. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe on this video. Like I said, I'm open to answering questions. I'm trying best to answer any questions you all may have, or any additional information that I did not add on here. That's pretty much about it. Thanks a lot, guys. I really do appreciate y'all for watching. And yep, that's it. Alrighty, y'all have a nice day.